It's our pleasure to welcome in at this time, Tommy, the Executive Director of Racing for Recovery, Mr. Todd Crandall. And Todd, Tommy and I want to welcome you to the front row, welcome you to the BCSN, and welcome you to 1470, the radio sports station, because what you're doing in the Toledo community, I think, is of great import. There are so many young men and women today in the high schools that struggle with these issues of alcohol and drugs, and they're real. I mean, you can't hide from them. You know, you can't run away. You can't hide. You can't pretend they don't exist. I think sometimes people do that. And someone like yourself who maybe, we can give a kind of Reader's Digest version of what happened to you, and then we'll get into your DVD and movie and book and all that. But what happened to you, Todd, and the great work that you're doing in the community today to help young people.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on the show.
Our pleasure.
Just to recap a brief synopsis of what I went through, I was a severe drug addict for 13 years of my life. I started with a couple sips of alcohol in 8th grade, and it progressed to a level where I was, drinking close to 2/5 of whiskey a day and snorting 3 or 4 grams of cocaine a day. I was expelled from Sylvania Northview High School because of cocaine, lived in my car, and had a lot of problems associated with my drug usage. And after receiving a 3rd drunk driving charge back in 1993, that's when I had my wake-up call and started to put my life back together.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Todd, can I stop you right there
Sure.
for a second? They always say that there's always a low point or a bottom. I read Chuck Nedron's book, Three Dog Nightmare, and his low point was when he was living in a dumpster in East L.A., barefoot, in the dumpster. And is that true? Is there a low point? Because sometimes you don't know when you're helping people. I hear constantly, well, let them or let that person go or let that gal go because they haven't hit their low point yet. Well, sometimes how do you know what their low point is? You might let them go beyond their low point and they don't make it. I mean, how do you determine that?
Well, I can't determine what another fellow addict's low point is because only the individual can determine, hey, this is the lowest point I've ever been. I want help. And for me, I had a lot of low points that you would probably consider, why didn't he stop then?
Sure.
But for me, it stopped after receiving my 3rd drunk driving charge.
Okay.
What you're doing for young teenagers right now and young people is incredible because it's so prevalent right now, drug and alcohol use among young teenagers, not just borderline 18 to 20-year-old, but a lot of young teenagers still seem to be using drugs and alcohol. So any kind of message that you can get out is really helpful. So what have you done as far as the community is concerned?
Well, we run a weekly support group meeting in Sylvania. Every Thursday night at 7 we meet, and we have, like you said, a lot of young adults that are coming into our meetings. We had an 11-year-old that was in there.
11?
11. And that's astonishing for me, and I've been on that side of the fence. But our program and the support group meeting welcomes anybody that wants to talk about substance abuse issues and positive alternatives. We get adults coming in who have drug and alcohol addictions, and like we were discussing, a lot of the younger people as well.
Do you ever get a family situation where it's the young teenager and the parents, and they're beside themselves what to do?
Absolutely. We'll get families that'll come in, and it will either be the young adult has drug and alcohol problems, and the parent is bringing them, or it'll be on the flip side where the young adult is coming with the parent that has the drug and alcohol problems to see, look, this is where I'm headed if I follow in my parents' footsteps.
Todd, Dunk, let's remind everybody on the BCSN network and Sports Radio 1470. We're speaking with Todd Crandall, who's the Executive Director of Racing for Recovery. And Todd, we're just so proud of the work that you're doing in this community. And, maybe you can talk to, there's probably a lot of parents out there that are struggling with this issue. They've got a high schooler at home, boy or girl, that's experimenting with alcohol, experimenting with drugs, and they don't seem to be able to get to them. What would you recommend as a parent? I mean, I know we can't counsel anybody on the TV or the radio here that quick, but what are there things that signs they can look for trouble, and then how can they help these youngsters?
Well, you were talking about signs in a young adult. If you sense that there's trouble, there probably is. It's the old adage, if there's smoke, there's fire.
If you get the gut feeling something's wrong,
something is. Okay. And then from there, it's getting help. And whether it's coming to a Racing for Recovery support group meeting, going to a drug treatment center, other 12-step meetings in the community, do something to help that individual. Never give up on somebody, and try and do whatever it takes to help that person reach their bottom, as we were talking about earlier, and want that better life of sobriety.
Wait, Todd, you said something I think of great import here about never giving up on people, because you do hear it, from adults and other kids. This person's too far gone, and it can't really be helped. And you're living proof that that's not true. And can you stay through the break? We'd like to continue.
Absolutely.
On. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks
You're
a
on
lot.
Sports Radio 1470.